Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We were on for a while before I realized. Okay. We are learning Mishna Kesubos, Parak chapter 5, and we're in the middle of Mishnah Hay.
Okay.
The beginning of Mishnah Hay had discussed the types of work that a woman is obligated to do for her husband. And then the Mishnah spoke about, depending on how many maids she brings in, that would actually lessen her domestic load, because some of these things would be taken over by her maids. And the Mishnah said that once she brings in, if she has 4 maids, she could just sit in an easy chair because everything will be taken care of by the maidservants. Now, Rebbe Lezer said, Afilo hichnisa lai mea shvachos, even if she brought into the marriage 100 maidservants, 100 of them, kaifa lasais betzemer, he can force her to work in wool. He can force her to work with the wool and to make thread. Why? Shabbatala mevila de zima, because idleness brings a person to immorality. If she will not have any kind of work to do, any kind of constructive work to do, that means she will be not very preoccupied. That leaves her too much time on her, too much free time or too much idle time on her hands, and that could bring her to sin. And therefore, no matter how many, according to Rebbe Lezer, no matter how many maids she has, at the end of the day, you got to give her some work, because otherwise it's going to be trouble. Shimon Gamliel says, Af hamaderes ishtay melatzos malacha. Even a person who makes a vow to forbid his wife from doing any work for him, he forbids himself to have any benefit from any of the work that she does. Okay, so now we're in this marriage is in a pretty tough situation. She wants to work, and he basically created a vow to forbid himself from having benefit from any of her work. Says the Mishnah, Yaitzi, he gives her a divorce. V'yiten Kesubos, and he pays for her ksuba. Now, we have situations where a marriage ends, and sometimes the ksuba is not paid because we consider it her fault. But in this case, we don't consider it her fault. We consider the breakup of the marriage, the breakdown of the marriage, as his fault, because she wanted to work, and he basically forbade any of her work. He made a neder not to benefit from any of her work. So he now created a situation where she can't work. So she could actually now demand a divorce, and not only demand a divorce, get her ksuba, because it's on him. It's his fault. He's the cause of it. Why does this all happen? Shabbatala mevia lidei shimum, because idleness leads to shimum. Shimum means insanity. So therefore, if he basically creates a situation where she wants to work and she can't work, she can say, I don't want to go crazy. And she can therefore demand a divorce, and we consider it his fault, and he's not going to have to pay the ksuba. So here we have 2 different Tanoim that are expressing a similar law, similar halacha, that this woman no matter how many maidservants she has, you can't leave her idle. Because the first opinion called it as it's going to bring to immorality, because she's got too much time on her hands. And the second, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who gave a little bit of a different scenario, but again, it's going to be a similar idea that if she has no work to do, she's going to go crazy. And therefore, that goes so far to say that she can demand a divorce from him for creating that situation for her, and get her ksuba because he's the one who brought it about. But each one of them is saying a similar principle, and that is that batala, to be idle, isn't good, isn't healthy, and not only that, you can't create that situation for her to be that way. But what's interesting to note is that when Rebbe Lezer said it, he said batala, idleness, brings to immorality. Shimon Gamliel said idleness brings to insanity. Why did one call it one way and the other one call it the other way?
It's the same thing.
It's seemingly going to be, I mean, again, there are two different things, but what difference does it make what to call it? At the end of the day, there's no leaving her idle. So the Bartanura says the difference is like this. Okay, basically, let's say a situation she has no work to do. Right? She has no work. But she's not just sitting around doing nothing. She's playing games. They had games to play in those days. So, she may not be doing any work in the house, but she's, as we say, in a more contemporary example, she's playing solitaire on the computer. She's got what to keep herself busy with. It's not constructive, necessarily. It's not constructive. It's not doing anything for the home. But at the end of the day, she's occupied. She's occupied. So if the issue is, as Rebbe Lezer said, Zima, that the point is it can bring to morality. So there, playing games isn't going to take care of the problem. Because again, if she is idle in the sense that she's not doing anything constructive in the home, and she's just keeping busy, but nothing beneficial for the home, that could bring to morality. But according to Shimon Gamliel, who said idleness brings to insanity, okay, that already could be taken care of by the fact that she has these games to play. So therefore, if at the end of the day, when in the case of Shimon Gamliel, where he forbids any of her work, so good, so she can't do any work, but she has something else to keep herself busy, not just sitting around doing nothing, then she wouldn't be able to demand a divorce and get her ksuba. So that's the difference between whether you say calling idleness bringing to immorality or idleness bringing to insanity. Okay. Okay. So he says, being that this whole discussion we've been having about basically telling somebody else about how somebody could be damaging them, wants to damage them, wants to hurt them, and as he mentioned before, there are a lot of details that have to be met, and therefore it's very easy to stumble and not do this correctly. Okay, therefore he says we're going to have to give a number of examples, illustrations, and to expand upon them. So that anybody who, uses his seichel, uses intelligence, will be able to compare other scenarios to the ones that he's going to give. He says, therefore, right now, at this point of the book, I'm going to give you one example, so that, too many examples, people get tired of it, and therefore, he says, I'll give one example. And then at the end of this work, he says, I'll give more illustrations. But right now, he's going to give one illustration to show, to use as an example, and people can at least build off, or build off in the sense of at least creating questions in their mind about what they want to do, whether they can move forward or not. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.